Welcome to The Burn, Beyond Firestop. I'm your host, John Zalepka. Since this show is focused on life safety, I'm on a mission to find the most interesting people in this space to get their unique perspectives. As the training and development manager at STI, it's part of my job to help people understand how Firestop fits into life safety, but we want to get, beyond that. So our hope is that our audience walks away with an understanding of how our guests and their businesses also contribute to life safety of whatever is being built. So our show is brought to you by Specified Technologies, also known as STI Firestop. We are a global leader in the industry in developing innovative fire protective systems that help stop the spread of smoke, fire, and hot gases. Now our guest today is very knowledgeable about such topics. He helps the fire protective industry progress forward through process improvements, recurring revenue, and jurisdictional compliance. So it's my pleasure to welcome Drew Slocum. Drew, hello.
Thanks, John. Thanks. I like the intro there. That was good.
No worries. I usually do all of my research on LinkedIn. I'm sure you know that's where I got that from.
I heard. Yeah.
So when I went on your page, it was like jackpot. I mean, where do you even start with a guy like you? I mean, you're the co-founder of Inspect Point. You're the host of the Fire Protection Podcast. You're on the NFPA 915 Committee for Remote Inspections, the executive director of the New York Fire Sprinkler Contractors Association. You've worked at some huge companies, Tyco, Viking. You're a Six Sigma black belt. I don't even know exactly what that means. But I want to start a little bit further down on your profile, all the way back to your college days, if you don't mind, at RPI. But I don't want to start with your degrees in industrial engineering or the fact that you were in Theta Chi. I was a Pike myself. We had our own battles with you guys on my campus. But I want to start with Varsity Golf. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Varsity Golf, your low round, maybe a big team win, or what's the nicest place you got to play because of your involvement there?
Well, I've had, so I also rate for Golf Digest now, which is that's pretty prestigious. So I get to play a lot of great courses throughout the U.S. Evaluate courses for them. That's a lot of fun. I actually just got to play Kiowa Island down in South Carolina, where the PGA Championship's going to be at. That was a lot of fun. But I played RPI Golf, which kind of got my addiction to golf kind of kicked off. And we didn't get to play too many great courses there. We played at Turning Stone and a few other places, but that was in the early or late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, that's when the balls didn't go as far, the drivers, but it got my addiction going when I worked with Tyco right after RPI. I moved to Houston, Arizona, Nevada, and really got playing a lot of golf. So got to see some cool courses, but I prefer the Northeast courses, New York. The courses around New York and Philadelphia are the prime time. They're the best in the world, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, definitely. We're spoiled around here for sure. I mean, I live in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and we have the best public courses, and it's fantastic. So my next question, actually, you kind of already answered it. Do you still play? I mean, you write for Golf Digest. That's pretty cool. I didn't. That wasn't on your LinkedIn profile.
I don't. But
what's your handicap? What's your current handicap?
Oh man, you gotta throw it out there. I mean, handicap started yesterday in the Northeast. I don't know. It's lower than
the fact that you know that.
I hate putting it out there, but it's lower than a 2, but it should be around a 2. It's around a 2.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, we won't hold you to it. I'm an 11. Well, I was. I don't even know what I am anymore. But that probably includes a foot wedge or two from behind a tree.
Right.
Don't tell anybody.
Right.
But I guess when and where are we playing? Maybe I can get Matt Thomas to approve a round for you being a guest on the show.
Well, I'm into wherever. I've got to come down to South Jersey here soon, probably in June. So Atlantic City Country Club's on the docket. So if you want to meet me down there.
That's always a fun place to hang out for sure. But
yeah.
All right. So let's take me back to RPI. You got a couple engineering degrees. So are you an engineer by trade? Is that kind of what led you into the industry?
Industrial engineer by trade. came out of school, worked for Tyco as an industrial engineer, manufacturing their dry pipe valve, Tyco's dry pipe valve, which is, I had no idea what it did, but I knew how to manufacture it, from the processes there. And worked a lot of their valve and pipe plants for about 5 years. That's where I got my Six Sigma black belt with them for process improvement. So that was, that's kind of what I did in school. My degree is in. And, after that, they actually brought me to the sales guys for the pipe plant that I worked for, Allied Tube in Arizona, would always bring me to the golf events on the sales side. So they're like, man, you're good at golf. You should be in sales. And because a lot of that stuff happened there. So that's kind of what kicked off, the sales and business development career is the golf side. So worked with Allied Tube for a little bit longer, and then transitioned over to the fire protection product side in New York City. So kind of where your background is at, territory manager in New York City, and that's kind of a wild market in New York. They say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So it was tough to sell there, but it was a lot of fun. So I did that for probably about 5 more years, and then went to their competitor Viking after that, and ran their business in New York for business development sales for probably 4 years. So yeah, a great background with some good manufacturers, and that's where I met Matt Thomas too. You're marketing director,
our chief marketing officer.
Yeah,
awesome. But I mean, I find it interesting that golf is actually what got you into the field in sales and things like that. So that's fascinating, actually. I wasn't sure if maybe you were always interested in fire or life safety or something like that, but it's just it's one of those things, right? It just happens where you were into golf and you were into this industry, and all of a sudden, you're a territory manager in like the biggest city in the world, right?
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. I was on the production line doing engineering on the sprinkler pipe line in Arizona, and then they would bring me to all the golf events, and then they're like, "Hey, now you're territory manager for Las Vegas, Utah, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Wow, all right, this is fun," because if you have the engineering background, you get to talk about the product or the whatever you're selling. It's a little easier if you know the technical side.
Sure. So golf can't be the answer to this question, but what did you enjoy most about being out in the field, solving problems? I mean, I remember seeing a T-shirt when I was a territory manager. It said, it's called TM because Badass Miracle Worker is not an actual job title. So what are some of the things that you enjoyed about being out there?
Well, being in fire and life safety is you see what you're doing every day actually is making a difference for the health and the safety of the community, of the people that we live with every day. And you're in the buildings, you're understanding, fire protection and keeping them safe, even though most of the U.S. and everybody around you, they don't necessarily know how they're being protected from fire or for anything inside these buildings. So, being in New York City, working with the FDNY, working, with the Department of Buildings, and just understanding how to make life safer. I think it's pretty cool to see that in action. And, whatever you're selling and doing every day, there's a great cause to it. So.
No, that's great. I mean, for me, it was like you said, making that difference, knowing that something that you did or something you said or something you taught to somebody, even something that you sold could potentially save a life or many lives in the event of a disaster, right? So
sure.
I thought that was cool. But any memorable projects that you can remember being on out there? I know we crossed paths. I mean, I could remember a lot of different high-rise structures out there, but is there any one that kind of like that you remember, maybe a big win or maybe just a crazy situation that you helped solve a problem?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Most recently, the tallest building in New York City, I helped AKF engineers out there. They're a big engineering firm in New York City, MEP, fire protection firm. Work with them, the Department of Buildings, FDNY. to come up with a sprinkler design for the tallest residential high rise in the world. Right, it's 1 foot shorter than the Freedom Tower or One World Trade, whatever. Also, which I think it just opened back up, is Moynihan Station, the new Penn Station. There's a crazy protection scheme in there. I'm actually going to probably do a podcast about it at some point, because some contractors that use our Inspect Point platform are doing the inspection or did a lot of design there. But this is, the new Penn Station across the street in the old postal office there. Beautiful, beautiful architecture in there. But it's wide open ceilings with architectural glass, and how do you protect that from fire? So, working, with the engineers, with the FDNY, with the different contractors to put it doesn't follow code. It's more design build it's design build, or I forgot the word they were using, but it's outside the scope of NFPA. So you have to, when I was working with Viking, we actually did some fire testing for that whole design. So it's really cool, and I'm excited to get back to take the train into Penn Station to see how it looks.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I was out in the field 2 years ago at this point, and I was at Moynihan Station. I think we were like 30 stories below ground or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty wild how deep that goes, but that's going to be really cool to see once it opens up. But awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, was there things out there in the field that kind of led you to co-found Inspect Point? I mean, I guess let's transition into that at this point.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Inspect Point's a fire protection specific platform. I mean, we can go in other directions with it, with the EH&S and safety, but essentially it's geared toward fire protection and the NFPA codes for inspection, testing, maintenance, service. So fire protection contractors that are in the inspection or service realm, it's a valuable asset to them because it kind of manages that whole process from the field technicians doing the inspections per NFPA or whatever you're utilizing code-wise, all the way to a proposal, to a service order, to the reports going out to the customer, or even the AHJ or the fire jurisdiction. So kind of manage that whole process. We're into a lot of facilities as well, facilities in colleges, universities. So, but what got that started is some friends from RPI. We were bouncing ideas off each other one day, and they had some friends in the fire protection space, and were actually my clients when I was at Viking and Tyco. And I had been in training classes for NFPA 25 before, and I always was like, why is everything on pen and paper? Why can't we move to a more digital solution? Everybody has a smartphone these days. Why are we doing this? So that kind of got that going in, what's that, 2014, 2015. And we all kind of picked away at it for a few years, and then we're a full-fledged company. We were a startup a few years ago. Now we're one of the leaders in fire protection inspections. So
nice. How big is your company? You got any other co-founders you want to give a shout out since names on the big show?
Yeah, there's 4 co-founders. Phil Sergiano, he always gets mentioned last, so I'll mention him first right now. Phil Sergiano, RPI background in software development. So the other 3 co-founders are heavy in the software and processes side. So I kind of brought in the fire protection piece. And it's a great niche industry to be in because nobody's really doing what we're doing. So we got Phil, Jennifer Doyle, and Padraig Doyle, Pat Doyle. Pat's CEO, Jen's head of customer success. So she is the wizard, or the what's a lady wizard called? I don't know. I shouldn't call her wizard. Wizard dress. She does everything once somebody wants to sign up for the platform, she gets them all the way squared away. She launches them within a couple weeks, and she's kind of the staple to our platform. I'll give her the shout out there. Pat and Phil are software developers, high end iOS and everything else, and I'm the fire protection piece. So it's a great synergy between the four of us. And then we have a team of over 20 people in upstate New York and throughout the country. And we're growing. We'll probably be over 30 people at the company by the end of the year.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's remote inspection. So did the pandemic hurt you at all, or did it help you? Or, I mean, did it? Weirdly
enough, the industry, we were all worried when the pandemic started, but, a little over a year ago. But fire protection inspection did not stop. It was an essential business. It was categorized by an FPA that way in a lot of fire jurisdictions because the buildings are still there, no matter if people are in them or not. So fire protection on the reoccurring revenue or inspection side still needed to be done. And actually, most companies that we talked to were above their forecast for 2020, which is crazy, right? Not a lot of new construction happening, or it kind of slowed down toward the end of the year, and it's still slow depending on what sector or area of the country you're in. But as you guys probably see with fire stopping and everything. But we had a great year because everybody, if you were on an antiquated platform or even pen and paper, if you're not into the digital world by the end of this pandemic, it's going to impact your business. So the reoccurring revenue of inspection, testing, and maintenance has been huge for us. I'm very grateful to have the year we did, and kind of 21 is going to be awesome.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's been great. Now new construction it's hit or miss right now, but that'll come back eventually. Infrastructure projects will help that, but there's call for residential as well. So I think there's still some growth opportunities in fire protection.
For sure. And I'm sure you'll find them. Probably from the podcast, right? I mean, the podcasts don't hurt, right? I mean, what kind of led you to start the podcast? Was it, business related, or where was the inspiration? Where did that come from?
So I think I started doing it a couple of years back. It was, we talked about it probably about 3 years ago. And there was another podcaster out there that came out with one. I'll give him a shout out, Chris Logan of the Fire Sprinkler podcast. He's out of Ontario in Canada, and he started that up probably 6 months or so before we did ours. So we collaborated a little bit toward the beginning, and we still do. I talk to him all the time. But I always listen to podcasts, and some of the other co-founders thought it was a great idea to get some content out there. And I didn't want to make it about Inspect Point, even though it says it's powered by Inspect Point, the fire protection podcast. But I wanted to bring in, and it's similar to what you're doing, I wanted to bring in fire protection professionals that I've dealt with over the years, or just new technologies or new ideas that are kind of progressing the industry forward. And, some hot topics out there, no pun intended, but, it's been a lot of fun just learning from different people in the industry that I've always looked up to. So.
No, you've had some amazing guests on your show. As I'm doing my research, obviously you mentioned the Chris Logan, the Dual podcast. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Terry Victor, Joe Meyer. But I guess tell me, Drew, who was the absolute worst guest that you ever had on the show? No, I'm kidding. Actually.
Probably myself. I actually don't even listen to it. And once I record it, it's out there. I hate listening to myself, so it's.
I know it was painful. This is only my second episode here, but the first one it was like, oh man, did I really sound like that? But maybe okay. Tell me on a more serious note, what's something about maybe the industry, yourself, or life in general that you maybe weren't expecting to learn from doing the podcast, but you're like, wow, this is pretty cool, or this is eye-opening, or
Well, it's just the reach of it, and you'll learn this, and some of the podcast platforms that and hopefully Riverside listens to this, because they hold on to a lot of that data of who's listening to it, right? I know where they're listening and how many guests or how many listeners we get, but I'm getting stuff from Southeast Asia, from the Middle East, from Africa, from Europe. Most of it's U.S. and Canada based, but I'm getting people listening all over the world, and it's pretty. I don't know. I never thought it would be this as big as it is. And again, it's all about the guests and getting it out there, just getting the messaging. And I know we've had a little break since the last one, since I had Terry Victor on, but I'm recording 2 in the next couple weeks. And yeah, I'd love to have you guys on at some point too. But I probably have 5 to 10 episodes over the next few months that we're recording. So.
Nice. That's what I was going to ask you, if you had any guests you wanted to promote, or any shows, or even with.
Yeah, so I reached out to, I don't know if you guys know NAFED, North American Fire Equipment Distributors. So it's the extinguisher companies, it's the restaurant suppression companies, and they do a lot of different other trades as well in fire protection. But they're having one in Atlantic City, a trade show, an actual trade show, which we get to finally go back to trade shows. There's one in Vegas and Atlantic City in June, and hopefully I can promote this. They wanted me to come on to be a panelist, but I'm also going to do a live podcast at the trade show, at both of them. So that should be fun. Don't know what we're going to do it on yet. Probably have some different contractors, distributors, manufacturers, and just have fun with it. I think that's. Everybody's been locked up for a year here, so I think, getting out and seeing people is going to be a lot of fun. So taking that on the road will be entertaining.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to get back out there. And hey, send me the link to that, and I'll be happy to put it in the show notes and promote that for you guys, for them, if that helps in any way.
Totally.
How about Inspect Point? Any new innovations or things rolling out with the company that you kind of want to tell us about?
Yeah, our product is always evolving. I always say 20 to 30 new features every month. It could be small, could be big, but we are launching a very big Canadian fire alarm ULC platform here, probably early summer or so. That's going to be game changing, I think, for at least the Canadian market. But also getting into just some different NFPA codes, as well as our service platform. Our competition a lot of time are kind of service-oriented software platforms, and they don't necessarily touch fire protection, or they just maybe dip their toe in it. So, we're kind of the full flow from inspection all the way to the service work orders and even the invoicing. So. Yeah, really excited to. I don't have any. I mentioned a few there, but yeah, it's exciting. Just at inspectpoint.com, or just stay in tune on social media.
Awesome. Inspectpoint.com.
One question I did have for you. One question I did. Sorry.
Here we go.
One question I did for you. So we're always putting different modules in the platform. I mean, we have a little version of NFPA 101 with occupancy and exit signs and egress in our platform, for inspection. Now, when Firestop inspection happens, and that's usually on an install basis, but who's doing the inspections for fire stopping?
So it depends. I mean, right now, since the 2012 IBC, there's a requirement for third-party inspection on certain buildings, high-rise, 75 feet or above, or risk 3 or risk 4 category buildings, which are places that have explosive kind of stuff in them.
Sure.
So that inspector is typically hired by the owner and paid for by the owner to kind of go around AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, who also may need to sign off on what the third-party inspector has already looked at. So It really depends on who's inspecting, who's enforcing, what the jurisdiction is. There's certain places like Las Vegas, New York, California, places in Florida that really, drive home the IBC in certain high-profile projects especially. But, again, it's kind of the interpretation of code sometimes. So if you're in a smaller town that maybe doesn't understand the importance of Firestop, you could get somebody who's looking at something that goes, yeah, it's red, good. So I don't know. That's a long answer, but it really depends on the jurisdiction and how high profile the project is.
Sure.
Really.
Yeah, because we have some contractors that do kind of a combo of everything that do Firestop inspections through our platform. So I've always been, interested in that market. If it's should we go deeper and bake in some of the NFPA 101 codes in there for depth and all the different requirements for those third-party inspectors. So maybe we'll have to take this offline sometime.
Yeah, we certainly can do that. But we already have a program called Firestop Locator.
Oh, sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, there may be some synergies there to kind of tie it in together. So if our software development team is listening, which I hope they are, reach out to Drew. I'm sure, like you said, anything that can make buildings safer is what we're all about here, right?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's and you got to move the industry, HJs, contractors, building owners, more to the digital side of things. So
that's kind of where I was going to ask you the last question. Where do you see things moving? But it's obviously digital. But do we see more code enforcement, more standards, better enforcement? I mean, what are you seeing as a
Well, I think you'll see
trend?
this too with fire stopping, and it's going to be happening in all fire protection. But I sit on NFPA 915, which is the standard for remote inspections. So, and it really got accelerated through the pandemic because you really can't really gather or meet or do inspections a lot because of the pandemic, right? So what the FDNY has done, and it's happened throughout the country, some other jurisdictions that sit on 915 are doing remote inspections. So instead of a technician out there, it's going to be more remote. So somebody's there with an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, they're on a Zoom or FaceTime with like a jurisdictional and AHJ or just maybe a senior technician to go through an inspection with them. Now it's just a base code that it's still got a few years until the team is done with it. But it's going to be enacted by, or it's going to kind of be put into some of the other NFPAs like NFPA 72, 25, 101, and a few of the others where if you can't have an inspector there, there's an opportunity to do it remotely. So, the FDNY is doing it right now with remote inspections for verifying their fire alarm systems. So, not everybody needs to be there. The FDNY's AHJ the inspector is back at their laptop or back at the FDNY headquarters, and the engineer, or third-party inspector, or contractor are there with essentially FaceTime or Zoom, going through the full inspection. So I see this happening in fire stopping. I see this happening in a lot of different realms of fire protection. So I think that's probably in the next 5 years going to be a lot more prevalent. It's right now it's not allowed in the code, but again, the standard's being created, and it's kind of a fun time to be in fire protection. So.
Well, hey, maybe you have to invite me to the next committee meeting for 915. I'll have to come check it out.
Yeah, it's open for guests. So I don't know when the next meeting is, but it's still in infancy, and it's just a base standard for remote inspection. I mean, people are talking about remote testing and on systems and all that, and that's a whole different topic. On Internet of Things and IoT, that's a new and innovative. You don't really see that in Firestop too much, but more the active systems where you can get some essentially remote monitoring information or remote testing information back from the systems to provide essentially monitoring virtually. So if a system is discharging, you're going to know that from your phone, kind of like your Google Nest or your Ring camera, or I've got an oil gauge downstairs that tells me when I'm running out of fuel, on my phone.
Yeah. Well, that's good. If the fire stop was dislodging, then there'd be a fire at that point,
yeah.
Since it's actually testing.
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. So, Drew, is there any parting thoughts that you want to leave us with, or anything you just kind of want to say while you got the microphone?
Not really. Just inspectpoint.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. We're on all the social media platforms. Please subscribe to the Fire Protection Podcast. I always like having listeners and would love feedback to any new topics. And a lot of your guests could be my guests, could be Chris Logan's guests. So there's a lot of people out there that it's interesting on each platform or each podcast platform. They're all kind of structured a little differently. So that's nice. And I think it's a nice synergy between all of us. We're not, Chris puts it out as we're all co-petitors, not competitors. So we brainstorm and, again, it'd be fun to collaborate a little more.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I've already been trolling your list, so
yeah, that's
I'm sure
fine.
some of your guests will be getting a call, but
that's
awesome.
Good. I only like having them on. Well, I have a few reoccurring guests, but did you listen to the one that I did in San Antonio at NFPA?
I don't.
It was at a tequila bar. It was.
I think I would have recalled that one then.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I kind of want to do something similar and just make it fun. It didn't get too rowdy, but it loosened up the guests a little bit to kind of speak their mind, and that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, kind of like Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
I guess we can start drinking now. It's 11 a.m. It's 12 o'clock somewhere, right?
Right.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Drew. I appreciate you coming on. And thank everyone for listening. We know that there's many podcasts out there, and you've chosen to listen to this one, so thanks again. And be sure to check out the show notes for Drew's links and some of the things that we talked about in this episode. And finally, if you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And, of course, rate it, review it, tell a friend about it. Because, remember, friends don't let friends not know about awesome podcasts like this one or Drew's, the Fire Protection Podcast. So until next time, this is The Burn, Beyond Firestop. Drew, take care.
Thanks, John. Take
care,
care,
man.
man.
Thank you.
Yep.